C'è
ma
movimento
ci stava, non ci stava.
nella foresta.
Quel video della Svizzera, 1800 views, cioè da lì non so perché non hai continuato, se no ormai sarebbe.
Ma figa, perché l'AI mi fa schifo.
Vabbè, ma
E poi non so come cazzo guadagnarci. Ah, eccolo. We are live, guys. We are live. Let's go. Let's go, guys. So, anyway, I'm trying to like figure out if the audio is okay, guys. So that is something that we have to find out, guys. Guys,
non è partito.
ma come no? Vabbè, ci mette un po', Floris. C'è il lupo che canta allegra le sue origini di zero.
Ergensen.
Complete.
Vielen Dank.
Figa, mi sembra un po' troppo alto, Floris.
No, va bene, oddio.
Va bene? A posto. Allora va bene, allora va bene. Allora è bravo. Allora è proprio bravo. Complimenti, complimenti. Niente da dire, complimenti. No, no, sì, sembra perfetto. Va bene, guys. Guys, I feel like this is the best thing that you can do, guys. Guys. Vabbè, la cosa positiva è che, figa, almeno così, anche se parlano dietro di me, se ho il microfono attaccato al culo, almeno, cioè, non è un problema.
Avete mangiato il culo da Nambos?
No, una volta sì.
Non ci credevo.
No, una volta sì ed era pure abbastanza
Quanto
buono.
cazzo era buona quella roba là?
Comunque sto streamando.
Vabbè,
Oh, questo salame, 2,60 €.
e vabbè.
Buono, cazzo.
E questa Red Bull, let's look at the ingredients. Acqua, saccarosio, glucosio, acidificante, acido nitrico.
We can call this healthy breakfast, guys.
Anidride carbonica, taurina, correttore di acidità,
Ah, che davano io.
E fino a qua ancora
te, ma-
il problema sorge quando arrivano aromi, coloranti, caramello, semplice, blu brillante, FCF. Però è pastorizzata.
Errore delle piccole cose.
Ma che cazzo vuol dire?
Le cose importanti.
It's beata looking good.
Tu stai guardando live. Perché mi fa vedere uno spect, quindi se non sei tu, è qualcun altro. Vabbè. Anyway, hello everybody. Let's do this stream. So, I wanna study blockchain more because I've been looking into it a little more these days. And it's been, for me,
Con Silvia non vedo.
a strong like wake-up call. I think that blockchain is, by all means, probably the most powerful technology ever. Probably the most enabling to all of us, because it makes us live in an actual democracy. And that's something that I want. Living in a democracy, in a just democracy, that is something that is, kind of very important. Well, anyway, I have a new setup now, so this is probably gonna allow me to stream better, to stream more, to stream more like reliably also, because now I have a good Wi-Fi, maybe good enough lighting also. So anyway, I think you're gonna see a lot more on my end because, well, it's kind of been a bit of a struggle to start, but I feel like now we're finally ready and we can get going, actually. Oh my god. Okay, let me just do one thing. Let me just... Oh, awesome. Okay. So I can do this.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿਸ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ ਮੈਂ ਬਹਿਸ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਪਰ ਹਾਥੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੜਦਾ
Oh, ne ho prova.
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਟੀਚਰ ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਮਿੰਟ
C'è un movimento punk nella foresta. Let me just. So I want to customize my fucking this mouse because. Oh, actually, I don't need that. So anyway. Oh, figa, state zitti, Floris. No, anzi, puoi entrare un attimo e sentire se senti te che parli. Cioè, devo fare anche questo test. Almeno, figa, posso stare un po' tranquillo, raga. Vai, prova a entrare e a parlare un pochino. C'è lupo che canta allegra le sue origini del sopra e se ne frega.
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੀਅਲੀ ਹਾਥੀ ਉੜਦਾ ਹੈ ਕੱਲ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਠੇ ਤੇ ਬੈਠਾ ਸੀ ਹੈ ਐਵਰੀਥਿੰਗ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਸਭ ਬੜੀ ਬਾਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਚੁੱਪ si sente ma pochissimo.
A posto. Bravo Floris. Ah, aspetta, dimmi anche se l'audio adesso è aggiustato che faccio partire una clip.
Ma no, è giustato.
No, ma figa, cioè in base all'audio della clip.
The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseWare continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or to view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseWare at ocw.mit.edu.
Okay, let's watch
Welcome.
this.
Welcome. If you have a desire to learn a little bit about blockchain and its intersection with the world of finance and money, and you're looking for 15.s12, you're in the right place.
I'm in the right
If you're
place then.
here to not do that and just hang out and have a good time, I guess you still hopefully are in the right place because we're going to have a good time this semester. My name is Gary Gensler. I'm a senior lecturer here at MIT Sloan. I'm also an advisor over at the MIT Media Lab. And I've spent a lifetime around the world of finance.
Yeah, just to add some context, this guy was the leader, the head of the SEC. So he directly impacted a lot of the US economy in the past few years. Under the Biden administration, he was the SEC head.
That's where we are. By the way, I do cold call. I do call on you. If you want to leave now, I understand. Because I want to have an interaction a little bit about it. So my first question for the class, for everyone, whether registered or not, how many of you have ever owned a cryptocurrency?
By the way, this Red Bull is so
It seems
so
like it's about
good.
45% of you or so. All right, so it gives me, Ilan, you want to keep your hand up long? And how many of you have ever worked on any blockchain-related projects in an entrepreneurial setting, a corporate setting, anywhere?
A bunch of idiots,
Right,
probably.
good. So about a third. In the
About a
room.
third? Wow.
All right.
Okay.
So you all know probably more than I do, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to always start every week with what are the study questions for the week. How many of you actually got this syllabus? This is not going to be graded assignment. I just have to have a sense of who actually got this syllabus. So good, many of you. And how many of you actually did the 2 readings? It's not graded. I just got to gauge the class. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Write those grades down, by the way. No. All right. So the 2
we have a
main
comedian
questions
here.
for this week's
Awesome.
lecture really is, what is blockchain and why might it be a catalyst? And I emphasize the word might it be a catalyst for change.
Okay, I'll just block it a second because I have to say, my opinion right now and my idea right now is that of blockchain being one of the most transformative and powerful technologies that there are out there. And pretty much what I believe is that we live in a very centralized world when it comes to online. You know, we have very few outlets, and it isn't like I'm just speaking to you. I'm speaking to you via someone else, via someone's owned property. So the internet is pretty much rented land, and blockchain helps us just directly access it. With
the world
ownership.
of finance.
That's
We can
what
talk about a
everybody
lot
talks
about things outside of the world of
So
finance.
this is the reason why I'm interested in learning more. I don't know if this guy is the best guy to learn from because quite clearly he was strong on regulating and all of that. So maybe this guy is not the best, but I think that you should give a listen to everybody. So probably today we're gonna just watch this, and I think that with AI I can just have summaries of all of this content, I guess. But I feel like, you know, I'd want to watch it more. I want to watch the long form. Maybe, I mean, we'll see how to approach
have a lot of
all this.
applications outside of finance, but I've chosen
It
to
has
try
a lot of
to
applications.
just
outside of
narrow the
finance.
scope.
One of the applications that I feel like is the most important is social media.
A bit. So this semester is really about blockchain and money or blockchain and finance. And secondly, you will see index cards on every one of these round tables. One assignment by the end of the class. You can do it now or later. I would like each of you to anonymously write on the card what you want to achieve in this semester. It could be anything from this class, from learning about blockchain, from making money on Bitcoin, from, I don't care if you tell me it's meeting your future spouse. Stay to put your hands up most. So I'm going to start and go back, the internet. How do I've come about this and sort of thought about, well, what is blockchain? What is it really about? Well, the internet started many decades ago, before most of you were born, but 1974-ish. I mean, there's some predecessors even from the late 60s. The Ethernet, which is really how two computers communicate. And then you had TCP/IP, which was really the internet protocol of multiple computers talking to each other. And then later on in 1990, how do we move forward? Does anybody know what HTTP is? We're at MIT. Your first name would be helpful. Eric.
It's a protocol for communicate the web content.
Web content.
Hypertext transport protocol.
Right. Do you know who's associated with the invention?
Kind of don't remember.
Anybody else? Anybody know who? It's not in the readings.
I think it's
Jim
Jesus Christ.
Berners-Lee?
Oh, damn.
Anybody
Close
know
enough,
who's
I guess.
associated with TCP/IP?
TCP/IP.
It was a company initiated by MIT.
This guy is Indian.
Beranek.
One thing about Indians in American universities, they never know how to speak. They always are like,
I don't know if it was a company associated with MIT, but Vint Cerf may have had some association
Right, just listen
with
to
MIT.
this.
It was a company initiated by MIT. I think Beranek.
Like anytime they speak, there is inaudible in the subtitles.
Beranek.
I don't know why. Like anytime they go to the US,
I don't know if
this is
it was a
what
company
happens.
associated with
They
MIT,
lose all
but
like speech
Vint Cerf may have had some
faculties.
association
They
with
just
MIT.
become these kind of.
So these are the first three layers, and then there
Okay,
were
I
companies,
gotta stop being
commercialization, 3Com and Cisco, and of course Amazon,
'Cause
that's
I'm
still
Indian.
around today. But there was something else going on. How do we commercialize the
It's actually,
internet? Does
yeah,
anybody know
something
what this
between
scene is from?
international students.
First pizza sold by Bitcoin.
Good thought. Good thought. First pizza sold by Bitcoin, but
Who is that
no.
guy?
it from the movie Hackers or something?
All right, movie Hackers.
From the net.
The Net. Do you know? Have you ever seen the movie? It's not a good movie. So this is the opening scene of The Net, and yes, that's Sandra Bullock.
Pizza.net.
And the year is 1995.
How ironic, though.
It's a cyber thriller.
I was thinking today about the guy that paid like
Defense Department's involved,
10,000
and so
Bitcoin for
forth.
2 pizzas.
But actually, Pizza Hut is associated with the very first sale,
Online sale.
online
Okay.
sale, anywhere in the world. They started something called Pizza Nut. This was the screen, by the way. If you wanted to go on, you could order your pizza. But there was one problem. Does anybody know what the problem was with PizzaNet? I mean, maybe there were multiple problems.
Yeah, the guy, they didn't transfer the money online. The money transfer was
No, Alana
by
called
hand.
you. You couldn't pay online. Nobody had figured out how to move money online. You had to pay when you showed up at the pizza.
Okay.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about cryptography. We're going to spend a lot of time on cryptography. It is cryptocurrencies and the like.
Obviously, yeah. Cryptography is very important.
What's your name?
Gigi.
Gigi?
It gives
Gigi,
its name
Gigi,
to
what's
the currency,
cryptography?
so she doesn't know. I bet.
Something cryptic.
Cryptic? All right, now you got it. You got to start there. Anybody want to help Gigi out? Does anybody want to?
So, what's misogyny? Oh, well, I think it's something misogynistic.
Help Gigi out.
Bro, come on.
Yeah, tell me your first name. We're gonna figure out how to have everybody have nameplates by next week, but we'll work with Ryan and do it that way. But,
Wow, these Red Bulls are so good.
technology or the science behind encryption and decryption codification. So how do you encrypt a particular text such that it's not readable by someone else without having a decryption code?
okay, so it's how do you encrypt something so it's not detectable
Yeah,
by
I
others?
I have to
Or
repeat
in
this,
essence,
but
it's
international
communications
students forget how
in the
to
presence
speak
of
when they go abroad.
adversaries.
Okay.
You have an
Communication
adversary who
in the
wants
presence
the
of
communication.
adversaries.
You want to
So you only
communicate
want your
and not let your adversaries
non-adversaries to know
And this
about
is-
what you're saying.
This is true for ancient times.
Yeah.
So in ancient times, there was
Yeah,
something called a
cryptography has
cipher.
been around forever.
And this
right?
was a way that
we
you
have
take a
our
piece of
code
leather or a
of
piece of
speaking,
cloth and have a lot of
and,
letters. And
you know,
both
so that we can
sides,
understand each other, and maybe the outside doesn't
you'd
understand us.
encrypt and decrypt because there were different measurements of the cylinder. Has anybody seen the movie Imitation Games?
No.
All right. The Enigma machine. Now, the movie was wonderful because it said Turing cracked it, and he did help crack it in an automated way, but actually the Polish government had cracked it in the 1930s before they fell to the Germans. And Turing built on all of that and cracked it further. And then in the 1970s, and this was here at MIT to some extent, there's private key, public key cryptography, which I'm not going to dive into today, but it's the heart of Bitcoin and blockchain. It's at the heart of the internet, but it's about, the key thing is communications in the presence of adversaries. How do you keep a secret when everybody wants in and get that information? And there's a long history.
It's funny,
And MIT
the
is
funny
at the
thing
center
about
of a lot of
credits
that.
is that
A lot of
it's-
early
they're
cryptography
so often inaccurate.
failed on the internet.
Like
In the
Turing
early
getting the
90s
credit for
and
what the
late
Polish
80s, David
accomplished.
Shum and others tried
It's
to
not
do
a
things, and we're not going to debate
fluke.
these
It
today,
always
but you'll have
happens.
one reading, I think it's either next week, which will give you
Credits
that
are
history, and
almost
it's
always
worthwhile knowing about the history of
misassigned
failure.
by the future generations.
But cryptography is the reason why the internet works today. Does anybody want to tell me what SSL and TLS is? Do we have any computer scientists? Remind me your first name. Eric.
That's the protocol that mounts on top of the TCP/IP stack to provide encryption using asymmetric keys, which is public key infrastructure. Cryptography, that's secure socket layers transfer.
Right. So it basically
Look at this guy, like asking questions, and then he just makes this face all the time.
Stack to provide encryption using
Like, hey, do you
asymmetric
guys know
keys, which is
anything? And then,
public
like-
key infrastructure. cryptography that's secure socket layers transferable.
Just stares down at
So
them.
it basically
"Oh, I didn't
uses
understand what you're saying."
asymmetric cryptography, which we're going to talk about 2 lectures from now.
I mean, he's the
But it
professor,
secures
so
the whole
he can do
internet.
that. But still, like, why are you asking
So all of a
questions
sudden you could deliver the
if
pizza
you
and
know
get
that
a
the answer is going to
passcode.
be stupid?
And I have to tell you, I never knew how this worked before I was at MIT. So PayPal came along in 1998.
Yeah.
I mentioned this, a whole bunch of other digital currencies then failed.
Oh yeah. Oh my
But
God.
some of the currencies then failed.
So let's look at these. BitGold, Hashcash, eGold, Cybercash, Mondex, B-Money. Okay. I mean, I feel like I think
But
that I
some
read
of these
somewhere that
people who will
PayPal
read later,
PayPal was meant to be something very, very similar to Bitcoin.
Adam Back, who created Hashcash, some of these innovations were what Satoshi Nakamoto later used.
Yeah.
Some innovations which were really helpful and worked were Alipay and M-Pesa. Does anybody know what M-Pesa is?
Nope.
I think it's used in Kenya as like mobile cellular enabled cash.
Right. In essence, they found out in Kenya,
Okay.
this was 10, 12 years ago, that people were trading mobile minutes. They were unbanked, but they had cellular phones, and they were trading their minutes as a form of currency. And Safaricom realized that and said, wait, we could help people be part of the digital economy, even if they're unbanked. And in Africa today, a half of the adult population, according to World Bank figures, is still unbanked.
Oh my God.
But half of that half has mobile phones.
Okay.
M-Pesa has 20 million customers in Kenya right now. So it's a form of money that's kind of swapping mobile minutes. But the riddle remained, how do you move money on the internet? Or in essence, how do you move value peer-to-peer without a centralized intermediary? And that's the core of blockchain technology.
Yeah.
So who solved the riddle? Is anybody going to tell me who solved the riddle? Who solved this riddle? No.
Come on, bro.
You're wearing a T-shirt that says Quentin Tarantino, so I think Quentin Tarantino should solve the riddle. What's that? What's your name? Bruce. And who solved this riddle? No. So a peer-to-peer cash. This is the actual doc top of an email that was sent out on Halloween 2008 by Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh yeah.
We don't actually know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but it's a study question a few lectures from now to ask you to tell me who you think Satoshi Nakamoto is. So I won't ask that now. And he started with a very simple sentence in his email. I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. It's kind of a modest statement. And so the question is this another internet layer? We're going to explore that this whole semester. I don't really have the answer. I don't think the best minds at MIT could really yet tell you. There are some who are maximalists and say, yes, it will be. And there are others who will say, no. And in this course, we're going to review the minimalist and the maximalist. We're not going to try to set.
So I feel like that would be a very important question because it also lays the questions on how vulnerable it is.
Generate in one place.
Unless
That's
it's
the key
built on
kind
its
of
own,
question.
it still depends on all the other
So what
things
is a
that
blockchain?
are below it, I guess.
We're going to do this in a lot of lectures, but I'm going to try to do it in a short version.
Okay.
So it's time-stamped append logs, meaning you can add a little bit of information
Yeah, it's funny how simple
to
it is.
this,
In
and
concept,
it's time-stamped.
it's so
These are these
so
blocks
funny
being added.
how simple it is.
Satoshi did not invent blockchain.
I think that building a mock
way
blockchain would
earlier.
be
Does anybody want to
actually a
guess
pretty
when
interesting
it was? You're going to have a reading about this later, but
practice
early 1990s.
like project. Absolutely.
Stuart Haber.
What's that, Medoris?
Stuart Haber.
Stuart Haber. Stuart Haber worked for Bell Labs, right? So one of your assignments, it's not going to be a graded assignment, it's just going to be a fun assignment.
Oh yeah.
Could any of you, I'm going to say by next Thursday, just to have some fun, find the longest, in time-wise, longest running blockchain. It's not Bitcoin.
It's not Bitcoin. Okay.
And it's been running since the mid-90s. And your clue is the New York Times.
Oh, that's
And we'll discuss it next Thursday.
interesting cue, I guess.
But this time-stamped block of data
Yeah.
creates a database, an auditable database. And we'll talk about ledgers, particularly next week, but we'll talk about ledgers all throughout this course and how it changes the world of finance. Now, it's secured by cryptography.
Yeah, so this is the point.
cryptography
This is the
remembers-
point. This is the point. There are so many transactions going on every day, every minute, every hour, between banks and everything. And I feel like the whole like institutional world is profoundly shaken by Bitcoin. Obviously, there always is a sort of time frame in which the invention happens and then it actually goes on to disrupt everything that it can. And it's not necessarily going to because
Communications
it's a
and
war.
making sure adversaries can't
It's a
pick
war
you
between
off.
the current power
We're going to learn about
structure
hash functions.
and
hash functions
previous
are a really important part of cryptography. And initially for databases and how to search and store information in databases. But in this circumstance, hash functions were the way to not only append the next block to the prior blocks, but really importantly, to compress data, to make it more manipulatable, and to verify it. And as I've written here, tamper resistance and the integrity. Digital signatures, which has to do the public key, private key cryptography. There is no prerequisite to this course. You do not have had to have taken computer science, cryptography, algorithms. If I could learn a little bit about hash functions and asymmetric cryptography, these are the two key important sides. And we have enough computer scientists in this room that can sort us out if I say the wrong thing.
okay.
Right, Medars? Hopefully. And then consensus. So there's a really important part of blockchain is how do you decide who appends that next block? Because when I went back here, there's block to block. Each of these blocks, somebody has to decide who appends, who gets to pick the next block. And that's what's called consensus protocol. And there's wide debates about consensus protocol. And we'll talk a lot about consensus protocol. But in essence, it addresses something, a term called the cost of trust, and we'll talk about Byzantine generals' problems, which is another reading. The Byzantine generals' problem was laid out as a sort of mathematical game theory issue some 30-ish years ago. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto solved, was this last part, the Byzantine generals' problem.
Yeah.
Pizza for Bitcoins. A year and a half after Satoshi Nakamoto laid out blockchain, Bitcoin, somebody sent an email, and you'll get these slides, but this is the real live email. I'll pay you 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas. I just want some pizzas. The guy who sent this, he says, I like onions, peppers, sausage, mushrooms. Laszlo. Now catch the date, this is May 18th, and he's offering 10,000 Bitcoins.
Laszlo is a dumbass.
But the key line
Laszlo is the greatest idiot ever.
is what I'm aiming for is getting food delivered in exchange for Bitcoins. Nobody had used Bitcoins as a medium of exchange.
I mean, maybe he was too early. Maybe he underestimated how big of a deal it is. I guess he just thought that it wouldn't catch up as it did. So, I mean,
18 months into its existence, nobody had used it to buy something. And Laszlo, as a computer scientist in Florida, was just kind of interested, and he put this out on an email list. 3 days later, he still doesn't have his 2 pizzas. So nobody wants to buy me a pizza. Is the Bitcoin amount I'm offering too low?
oh my God.
Another day goes by, he gets his pizzas. And he posts pictures.
Oh, he just reported that.
So here's a picture of his child reaching for those Papa John pizzas.
Damn, okay. By the way, the
Anybody know
lighting
what
on
those
this guy?
10,000 Bitcoins were worth back in
Yeah,
$71 on this? Because there's, and
Oh,
Laszlo was saying
$41.
too, why,
so it already was like
you know, so it's a
kind of a big deal. Like, I've never paid $20 for a pizza. Never.
cute story. May 26th.
By the way, the lighting on this guy is so stupid. Like, who decided this was a good idea? I can see his shadow.
Second every year is called pizza.
And I mean, I guess this guy is a kind of an evil guy, so his shadow always follows him around. But still,
Day or
who decided to light
Bitcoin
this way?
Pizza Day or something. So what is blockchain technology?
Yeah, and anyway, like it was not so. Yeah, now it's much more than $33 million per pizza. Okay, it's much more. It's like almost $1 billion.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a cute story. When Peter sort of picked from the literature and so forth, it verifiably moves data on a decentralized network. And the economics of blockchain technology are really around that. Verification and the economics of verification and the economics of networking. And in many ways, blockchain adds certain costs to the verification through this consensus protocol that we'll be studying.
Yeah.
But it lowers some other costs of verification because you're not relying on a centralized authority. So it's really a trade-off of cost of verification. I don't think I'm not a purist that says it's better or worse, but it's a trade-off of cost of verification through decentralized networks.
Definitely.
The data can be value, like Bitcoin was a money system.
The verification
or the data can
changes
be actually computer code. And we'll learn a lot about smart contracts. And you could have the data being verified computer code and algorithms. My world, finance, this directly goes to the plumbing of finance, because finance is fundamentally about moving money and risk through a network. And that network is the 7 billion people that live on this world.
Yeah, it's plumbing.
It's moving money and risk. And you've all taken finance courses, or many of you have.
By the way, I'm hiring devs.
The intermediation.
Anybody who can code,
of money and risk
even slightly,
our
please hit me up on Twitter.
But there's a whole host of challenges.
I'll leave
and over the course of this semester, we'll talk about those challenges, technical, commercial, and public policy.
To my Twitter profile.
Will they be solved? Will they not be solved?
You can do it.
But it could be a catalyst, but we're not sure yet. For change.
It could be a catalyst for a change in the world of finance. Yeah.
So does
yeah, great inventions are
the
catalysts.
Role of money in society.
They have to find the right enzymes. They have to find the right conditions. And sometimes it takes a while.
Tomas.
Yeah.
Tomas.
Basically, it's a way to exchange things and sales between people.
All right. Medium of exchange. Got that one.
Without doing bartering, I mean, exchange the
medium of exchange.
I love the confidence on this guy. Hispanics usually have that.
Shirt.
Medium of saving.
Savings. All right. So that would be a store of value.
Store of value.
Third, I'm sorry, the gentleman here.
Unit of account.
Unit of account. Wow. All right. There we go. There we go. So we're going to spend some time next Tuesday talking more about money and the role of money and the history of money, which I think is sort of lays a foundational piece of this. What about the role of finance? I've already sort of said a few things about that, but and I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I'm right here, the woman. Yeah. Role of finance. Sorry, I'm not going to tell any finance professor what your answer is. To raise money. So, keep going. I'm going to. Anybody else want to?
Oh my God!
Connect savers and borrowers.
Connect savers and borrowers. So connecting.
He was so brutal. Okay, so
situations.
Let's go a little forward.
Of money. But let's not forget it's also about risk. When you buy insurance, that's a transference of risk. When you buy an equity stock, that's a transference of risk. If you enter into a complex credit default swap, that's a transference of risk. So finance is not just the movement of money, it's a movement of risk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a very interesting view.
The economy, and I always think throughout.
Okay, so finance moves not just money, but also risk.
I always have thought this when I was at Goldman Sachs for 18 years, that finance sits at the neck of an hourglass. And it's why it collects so much economic rents from society, because when you sit at the neck of an hourglass and billions, literally trillions of grains of sand go by, if you collect some of those grains of sand, you get uber wealth. And that's those are for other classes, but
Yeah, that's
finance
why
can
economists
collect a lot
make so
of
much
economic
money.
rents. The financial sector, though, has a bunch of challenges. We'll have one lecture later in the semester about some of those challenges, and we have a reading. I think Sheila Baer wrote something recently that I asked you all to read later in the semester, but we'll talk about the financial crisis and some of the problems. But it's had a lot of crises. Fiat currencies have a lot of instabilities, of course. We have centralized intermediaries, as I laid out, and we'll talk about, collect a lot of economic rents. So there's opportunity. Blockchain has real opportunity to kind of come under this world of finance and maybe do some things better. Central banking also have a bunch of legacy payment systems. And those legacy payment systems are slowly adapting, but it's slow. And why did Alipay do so well in China is part of the story, because there were so many unbanked, just like M-Pesa in Kenya. But here in the U.S., we still pay 2.5% to 3% for our interchange charges for Visa, MasterCard, and the like. And a lot of clearing and settlement still has a lot of counterparty risks. And one that I care deeply about, financial inclusion. There's still 1.7 billion people in this world who are unbanked.
Yeah.
And so we don't think of it as much in the developed countries, but it's certainly
That's
true
a lot of people.
in many products, even here in the U.S. And these are, to me, the opportunities. Finance is 7.5% of the U.S. economy. That's $1.5 trillion of revenues. So any of you that are thinking about entrepreneurial opportunities, the payment system just here in the U.S. is 0.5% to 1% of our economy. That's $100 to $200 billion of revenues. I think Visa is about 18 billion. Just to, but when you add up the whole payment system, that's $100 to $200 billion.
Yeah, I'm studying right now. It's
so that's kind of the opportunity.
Like dynamic
blockchain
studying
technology come in? It's got problems. It's slow. It's performance issues still, but can it compete with that? Here are some of the problems the financial sector would say with blockchain.
I'm gonna be building
These are
later.
real life things that we're going to study.
Maybe more
later in the
tomorrow, I
semester.
guess.
They say it doesn't have the performance, scalability. A modern payment system, you need to be able to move about 100,000 payments a second. A modern securities clearing,
100,000 a
the
second.
Depository Trust Corporation, the Securities and Exchange Commission says, you do about 30,000 transactions a second, but we need you to scale, and your computers and everything have to be resilient to 100,000 transactions a second.
Okay.
Bitcoin, you can do about 7 transactions a second.
Yeah.
Visa currently, depends
very
on
slow.
the second, does anywhere from 20 to 70,000 a second. So it's just a sense of scalability and performance. We might get there. It might be 3 to 7 years away. I'm optimistic, but there's still a bunch of performance and scalability issues. Privacy and security. Blockchains, by their nature, are public. So they're not fully censorship resistant, but there's a lot of innovation about making them more private. But then that makes the public sector a little nervous. Interoperability, they don't necessarily work yet with other legacy systems or with each other. The internet, one of the great innovations of the internet, it became interoperable. That all of these different websites could kind of speak with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Governance is a very big issue we'll talk about.
I mean, that's the main
One of the
problem
things
about
about
crypto.
governance is it's hard to update the
breaks.
software of a blockchain.
It breaks anytime you try to build something new.
Because
on
if
top
you
of it.
create a decentralized where no one's in control, no one can collect economic rents, you also don't have sort of somebody with the ability to necessarily update the software. And we'll talk later about how Bitcoin updates its software and what Bitcoin core developers are and so forth.
Yeah.
But Facebook, you do know one thing, though they're a company that collects a lot of profits and economic rents off of their 2 billion members. They know how to update their software. It's a governance issue that's a real life a challenge. And that's why the financial sector says, I'm not sure this works, this is ready yet for me. And then thus, what are the commercial use cases and what are the public policy issues? So right now, the financial sector favors permission blockchains versus permissionless. This is going to be about 4 weeks from now. We'll kind of go through these two differences, but I want to just frame this briefly. Permission blockchains have a known group of people who actually participate. The half of you that said you've owned Bitcoin, you know it to be something where anybody can update the ledger.
Yeah.
Permission blockchains, you can't do that, in essence.
That's XRP.
You pick the 3 or 20. The Australian Stock Exchange is updating their clearing and settling. They announced they're doing a blockchain project. They're doing it with digital assets. And they're using the Hyperledger blockchain, which is an IBM software, open source software. But the Australian Stock Exchange is going to put it on 3 computers, which is called 3 nodes, that they control all 3 of them.
Oh, okay. So
The Depository Trust Corporation is looking at blockchain-inspired
simply an
solutions
internal
for
tool
some of
then.
their data warehouses, but they too are going to control
you can
the
still
nodes.
block anything that
I'm
you
just
don't like.
giving you, that's permission blockchains. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how they're looking at this.
Yeah, they're
Permissionless
fascist
blockchains are like
blockchains.
Bitcoin. Unknown participants, securities based
That's
on
it.
incentives, a cryptocurrency, and crypto economics. Crypto finance is about 200 billion, but you have to update these slides daily. 2 days ago, it was 230 billion. And this little pie chart is a little over half is Bitcoin. The next slice is something
Now it's
called
much
Ethereum
bigger.
and then Ripple and down the line. We're not going to spend a lot of time in this semester. If your goal is to how can you profit and day trade Bitcoin and day trade Ether, God bless, go prosper. You can stay in the class. I just won't give you much advice on it. This is not a crypto
He's keeping his
investing
secrets to himself.
centered class. But I'm
Yeah,
okay
obviously,
if that's
like-
what you're doing. Does anybody
Still,
know
like, if you understand how it works.
what the worldwide capital market size is? Anybody want to guess? This is 200 billion. What's it look like? I've already said it's modest.
Hundreds of trillion.
Hundreds of trillions. Global equity, about 80 trillion.
Okay.
Global bond and debt markets, 250 trillion.
Okay.
So it's still quite modest compared to that broad breadth of capital formation.
Yeah.
And gold?
This was
If Bitcoin's digital
2018
gold,
though.
what's the value of gold? All the gold that's ever been.
I think
Tom?
it's like
7 trillion.
okay. Yeah. 7 trillion.
So just give you a sense of scale.
But now it's more. It went up.
So there's also
exponentially.
something that's interesting about this space is that it's outsized public attention, even as evidenced by the 100 of you in this room,
Yeah.
versus the size it is relative to the capital markets today. There's a bunch of public policy issues. We'll have a lecture. I'm a former regulator. I ran the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. But this
Oh my
course is
God.
not about regulation. No, we have to always come back to regulation. We always
Yeah,
have to
this guy
infuse
is a strong regulator.
what we're doing with the
He hated
regulation.
Bitcoin.
But
But I'm
let me
saying
just
that
give you a
not because I
little
know it,
framework, and
but
then
because like
you
everybody
have to
says
be
that.
bored in
So
a handful of weeks
I don't
and
know.
read. I gave some congressional
But people say that
testimony
he
on it.
is.
Yes, it will
So,
be required reading.
I guess I
Sorry.
trust them for now. I'm still learning, but hopefully
it's
I have a
guarding
better view
against illicit activity.
later.
A lot of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies started out in the cyber punk sort of
Cypher.
movement and
Cypher punk.
libertarian movement, so forth.
Bro, this
And
guy
it is
teaching
true,
doesn't
you
know
can
cy-
movement and
Did he say
started out in
cyber?
a lot of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies started out in the cyber punk sort of movement.
Nah, bro, he said cyberpunk. It's cypherpunk. Yeah, I don't want to listen to this guy anymore. I'm gonna dislike his video and that's it. Like this guy giving a lecture doesn't even know what he's talking about. And he's lecturing MIT students.
And libertarian movement,
Come
so
on, bro.
forth. And it is true. You can use
Libertarianism
this
and cypherpunk. Yeah, cypherpunk is the future. Cypherpunk is the only alternative to AI dystopia and AI fascism.
for illicit activity. Absolutely. But would say crime is not new, just the mechanisms and means are new.
Yeah,
And so the criminals, yes, will use this and have used it for illicit activity. Financial stability, central bankers around the globe sort of, will this shake finance? Well, it's only 200 billion. The financial markets are 300 trillion plus, not yet, is generally what they're saying. But for some countries, it's a way to get around capital controls. And so for those countries worried about capital controls, it's a very real and live set of issues. And then protecting the investing public.
yeah.
And when we do this in a few weeks, I'll go through each of these, the investor protection issues, and yes, the SEC.
I mean, if the investing public is stupid,
and the like. For those who wish to do their own initial coin offering, I'll give some, broad sense of what the SEC is trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But it's a moving target. So this is a very interesting thing. As opposed to many of your Sloan classes or your CSEL classes or Media Lab classes, this is a very unsettled area of public policy. So it makes it interesting. And if you all go off and form companies, you'll actually be helping sort of set the edge of that public policy debate. I'd always say, just remember Poet Riley, the duck test. This is a poet, Indiana poet, so those that aren't from the US might not know the duck test. But basically, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. So whenever you're thinking about public policy, folks like myself, who once was a regulator, we think in the duck test. And then we secondarily think about the actual words in the congressional act.
Yeah.
Where's the common sense? And if it quacks and walks like a duck, it's probably a security.
Yeah, that's something that you
Or
want
it's probably this or that.
from a regulator, from a guy
The
making
incumbents
laws.
like this Linus in
You'd
the
like for
corner
him to
are eyeing
be a sense of
this
like
space
a
because
guy
there's a lot of
with common
volatility,
sense.
and Wall Street makes money on volatility. Volatility is a friend of Wall Street. It might not be a friend of
Volatility
investors,
is
but it's a
great.
friend of Wall Street. They also like the trading volumes and spreads. Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange here in the US, has 20 million accounts. They might not all be active, but that's the size of Fidelity's membership account list, and twice D.E. Shaw. And Robinhood, how many of you have ever used Robinhood as a trading app?
I'm gonna put it at 1.5.
Half of you. So free trading, right? 5 million members. For those who don't know, you can download Robinhood and you can trade stocks for free. No commission.
Yeah, obviously the commissions are.
If anybody's interested, show up and I'll do office hours on how Robinhood commercializes. They commercialize your order flow, and they make money without charging you commissions. But it's a sort of wonderful app. Millennials love it. 5 million members already. So you better believe D.E. Shaw and the incumbents are worried about things like that. The startups are also more willing to beg for forgiveness from regulators. They're willing to sort of take risks and beg for forgiveness, whereas incumbents tend to have to ask for permission. So there's an unlevel field that it's an asymmetric business set of risk about regulatory risk. Not always. I'm not like crying for JP Morgan. I mean, the big incumbents also, they have their advantages. And Coinbase is becoming an incumbent rather
startups
than
can
just
just start stuff and break stuff because they're building something new, and so they
startup in a sense.
it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, and if you're a big guy, you tend to ask for permission because they can just stop.
We'll talk during the semester about some of the incumbents. We're probably going to get Jeff Streckers here in mid-November. He's going to talk to you about what Intercontinental Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange is doing with Starbucks and Microsoft and the like. The financial sector use cases, I'm not going to go through these, but this is the second half of the course. Is going to go through each of these, and we'll do 1 to 2 sessions on each. Payment systems, central bank digital currency, secondary market trading, the venture capital and initial coin offering space. We'll do a course on that and move through. So what are we going to do in this whole course? Basically, our goal is to learn the fundamentals. That's about roughly the first half of the course. Pivot to 2 sessions on the economics.
I mean,
We're
I'm
going to
not
talk about the
gonna
economics
go through
throughout
the
the
whole
whole course,
course,
but I want to really just drill down on the economics on 2 of the discussions. And then riff through the financial space for the second half. That's our journey together. To me, it's for anybody who wants to gain critical reasoning skills. This is not just kind of a, hey, this is going to change the world and revolutionize everything class. And so I basically think of an old Defense Department term called ground truths. It's when the general doesn't really know what's going on, but needs to figure it out and needs to talk to that, that corporal on the ground who's got dirt, all over him and has been shot up and says, here's the real ground truth. We're going to try to talk about ground truths in this class and separate the mere assertion from the hype. And some of your readings will be some real Bitcoin and
it's a lot of
blockchain
hype.
minimalists. From
It's a lot of
Nouriel
hype
Roubini
driving
that
the
uses words I'm not
markets,
supposed to repeat.
वो भरावा काम कर रहे हैं.
doing a recording about this stuff, to Paul Krugman and Joe Stiglitz and other Nobel laureates who say, no, it's not going to work, or Warren Buffett, to Maximus. We're going to try to cover both sides. Larry Lessig is honoring me because he's in the back of the class, who's an enormously esteemed professor from Harvard. I didn't know Larry was going to be here, and I did the slide before, but in 1999, I think you wrote this book, Larry? Is that right? Code and Other Laws of Cyberspace. I put you on the. But I think it's worthwhile to think about Larry's 4 bits here. And I don't know, Larry, if you want to say anything, but I'm going to try to infuse this course in just how you think about this. The tech, we're at MIT, the technology, and we're going to get you a lot of technology. If you want more than I can give you is a former finance sort of type my whole life. There's going to be a bunch of computer science people in the class. We're going to hook you up together with the folks from Media Lab and CSAL and try to connect you to the technology side if you want to swim deeper in that pond. But the technology really, really matters. And that's why we are going to go through hash functions and go through asymmetric cryptography and so forth from a business perspective. Markets matter. Why is it that incumbents or startups are or are not doing this and that? Why is it 10 years in and nobody's got an enterprise-wide solution yet to payments that use blockchain? The law matters. The public policy side matters. And the fourth of Larry's layout, social norms. That's a little harder for me to teach.
Social
That's not what this
norms.
class is about.
I think that by now, the main thing that we need, like out of these things that he's talked about, so the code is fixed. We have, we already have transactions being made every day on our phones. Everywhere in the whole world, we have financial systems that run on our phones. So the architecture, I think that we're accustomed to this. Social convention, he says. Law, markets, and code. I just feel like the main problem with crypto now is people don't know how to use it. They will probably know soon enough. And I guess, the volatility makes it inherently not a great, money system, but it's kind of inevitable. In the future we'll say, I guess the first block is going to be stable coins, so that we kind of know what to assert as the value for it, but eventually we're going to be like, I was around before we used the Satoshis, we just had dollars. That's something that I feel like we're going to see more and more often. Anyway, I didn't like this guy. This, what's his name again? Gensler. I didn't like his lecture. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, so I'm not going to go on with this, but I'm going to stream maybe some other lectures, some other stuff. We'll see. We'll see what to react to. I'm hiring developers, so in case you're interested, please hit me up on X, and I'll see you in